This really did happen to me, and although I'm not haunted by the memory, it still freaks me out, and I'm pretty much out of rational explanations. I don't know if this is going to be freaky to any of you, but I can tell you that my irrational paranoia of the dark worsened after this. So, as a kid, I was always afraid of the dark, and I still am. However, it was a pretty insane fear when I was younger. I didn't really believe in ghosts or whatever they're correctly called, and I still am skeptical now, but this one prominent incident has made my perspective change from on the fence to experienced. I was 8 years old, and every night was a struggle for me to go to sleep. I would get scared of every little noise, and if I was fast asleep, I would wake up from every little noise too. I used to have a single bed that was placed directly in front of my door, which I always leave open when I sleep. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and just sitting upright, with my legs still stretched out though, and rubbing my eyes. Obviously, my room was pitch black and I couldn't see anything. However, this time, I did see something. After rubbing my eyes, I was surprised to find what I automatically assumed was my mother sitting at the end of my bed. The reason why I assumed it was my mother was because it had the same curly hair and wore the same type of pajamas my mother would wear, and wore glasses like my mother always did. However, she looked extremely pale and more like the color of a dead corpse that you'd find in the ocean. She was not facing me, but I could see her side portrait as she was still extremely still and silent and facing another wall. Obviously, I had no clue why she was just sitting at the end of my bed in the first place. Being the considerate child I was, I asked her what's wrong. She did not blink once, and she did not move at all. She was still facing the other wall, and I immediately got a bit heated, as I thought my own mother was ignoring me. So I asked her the same thing and got the same response. I reached out to her thigh and tapped it, trying to get her to face me. And at the same time, I touched my mother. I asked her again what was wrong, but I received a response I did not expect. As soon as I touched her, she whipped her head around extremely fast and faced me with wide eyes and stared at me with her mouth gaping. Then she started screaming while jumping off the bed and pulling my arms off of her. I obviously screamed from instinct and tried to bring the covers over my body to protect myself. I then heard footsteps from the hallway and faced the door in my room, and the lights turned on, and it was my mother, with a scared face, and she asked me worriedly why I was screaming and what was wrong. I sat there, shocked. I looked around my entire room, and that thing that I thought was my mother wasn't there. I told my actual mother that it was nothing and tried to get back to sleep, but I obviously couldn't. Many years later, my mother and her sister were looking through old photos of their lives, and I decided to sit with them. The house that I lived in when that incident happened has been there long before I was born, and my mother had in fact, growing up, lived next door to it while it was being built. And she wasn't the first owner. My mother was telling me about the times when this house was being built and who first lived there. They were a mother and daughter, and they both died too early. The mother died of cancer, and the daughter died in her young adult years from a drug overdose. My mother then showed me a photo of their daughter. Her name was Rachel, and I remember a terrible feeling forming in my stomach. I took the photo from my mother's hands and looked at the photo more closely. Curly hair, glasses, but this time she wasn't in pajamas, in casual clothes. It was her, the woman that was on my bed. It looked exactly like her, and that incident that happened when I was 8 will always make me remember her face. I don't know how Rachel, if it even was her, got into my room that night, or if I fully believe that it was a spirit or anything, but someone was there, whether human or not. I saw her, felt her, and I heard her, and I will not believe that it was my imagination.